Hey y'all, and welcome to another edition of the Unscripted Huddle, brought to you by the National Football Alliance. The NFA's purpose is to honor, improve, and advance the sport of tackle football. If you're the parent, coach, or administrator of a youth or high school player, you're in the right place. We aim to deliver an authentic voice regarding performance, safety, and the medical truth to support you and your players. My name is John Reagan. With me is Joe Rafter. Let's kick it off. Well, welcome back to another edition of the Unscripted Huddle, brought to you by the National Football Alliance, where we aim to honor, improve, and advance the game of tackle football every single day. I am excited to be back. I hope that my fatigue from working at camp doesn't take away from the energy that I feel inside, but it's good to be back, Joe, and excited for our guest here tonight.
Right on, John. John, where are you right now?
Yeah, I'm back in my old this is a very appropriate show tonight because I'm back in my old high school hometown here in Albany, New York. Not in Boca del Vista and not in Central Texas, but back in New York where I won't say it all started for me, but where it all kind of started moving forward for me. So that's exciting.
And you doing a football camp up there?
Yeah, I come back up on an annual basis and run a camp at the high school for the offensive line. Part of it giving back, part of it creating new opportunities, but very exciting. So it's fun to be back here and practicing on the football field. We might have to ask some questions about some of that tonight because there's some fun things, some fun memories that come up. And, for me, I know this is just the introduction, but for me it's exciting because I get to stay with one of my best friends from high school and his wife. And, he was our quarterback in high school. His dad was our head coach. And besides my family, they kind of raised me. So it's kind of a neat opportunity.
That's cool. I think it's very apropos for our guest here tonight, Benner Miller. Benner, I'm going to turn it over to you. Like we always do with First Down here at the Unscripted Huddle. Tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about, you've been in football for a while. Tell us a little bit about your journey and why you're still in it.
Yes, sir. So, my name is Peter Ney. I am a rising junior at Tufts University. I play offensive line. I'm a guard for us right now, and it's great. And, football has just meant literally the entire world to me, especially in these past couple of years. So I started playing football, I want to say when I was 9 years old. I went in our Pop Warner program, which is called the Conestoga Generals.
Conestoga Generals, baby.
Yeah, baby. And, I started it out, and, I liked it, but I quit after 2 years. And then, just one random day when I was in 8th grade, my buddy was like, you're a pretty big kid, why don't you come play football? And I was like, yeah, something to do for the fall again. Like, why not give it a shot? And, man, I just fell in love with the game. It was my first time being an offensive lineman, and, for whatever reason, I thought I was going to be a tight end, but it did not work out like that. Worked out for the better.
That's what we tell everybody to get them to play offensive line.
I usually tell kids who say, I'm like, man, just nip the bud, man. Just start playing O-line. Get good at O-line. But, so I played in 8th grade, and then freshman through senior year, 2-year varsity starter at Conestoga, and then my senior year I was captain, and I think it was first team All Central League, and then second team All Main Line. But actually, it's a funny story of how I got to Tufts. So I never thought I was going to play football in college. I bawled my eyes out after my last game as a senior, and I thought it was over. And then I was literally just sitting in my room one day, and I was like, screw it, I might as well put a highlight tape out there, just if any coaches see it. And I literally threw one together in like 20 minutes, posted it to Twitter, kind of along with my accolades. And then within a couple of days, I had guys reaching out to me. But Tufts really stuck out as one because I went to a football camp there, and I absolutely loved it. And I tried to get in contact with them, emailed them. Admittedly, did get ghosted to start off, but then they reached back out, so it's all good. And then, I started DMing with Coach McDonald, who is no longer with us. He's scout for the Patriots, so extremely happy for him. One of my favorite guys. But I took a visit, and I really love the place, love the people, love the academic aspect of it. And obviously I got to play 4 more years of this game that I love. And, just all of a sudden in pretty much like a month period, visited, committed, and, pretty much changed my whole life just because I posted a highlight tape to Twitter.
It's awesome, Benner. I love hearing that story of a guy who just like you took a shot, and it was answered, right? I want to take you back. When you talk about Conestoga Generals, I got a little excited because, I long time ago I was the president of that organization. Before you were, you were there. Tell us a little bit about, because John and I had this conversation on another episode about the times where you think about walking away because it's too hard, right? You said, hey, man, it's enough. I'm not going to play anymore. Tell us a little bit about that experience, because I think more young football players face that experience than don't, right? They're like, this is really hard, and I think I'm going to walk away. You did. Tell us a little bit about that, that experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I was in a place, even though I was only like 10 years old, I don't think I was used to kind of having that much adversity in a sport before. There's nothing like it. Like, you get hit and you get knocked down, you got to get back up. And, at the time, it was just like I was going to these practices in the heat. I wasn't having fun, admittedly. I weighed more, so I had to play with the older guys, and I would always get tossed around. Yeah. So, I really liked basketball at the time. Yeah. But
it's all good.
Yeah.
Yeah. But sorry. I really think it was just it was. I mean, straight up, it was challenging. It was really challenging. And I'm not saying it was the right or the wrong decision, but I just quit. I didn't want to do it.
Right on. Yeah. So two quick stories in my experience when I was out in California. I used to tell the parents at the youth level, this will be the hardest thing your child has ever physically done up until now. Be prepared for like first year parents coming in playing football.
Yep. Telling
the parents like your child is gonna be stressed. They're going to be pressured physically, emotionally, socially, and intellectually. You got physically, you're going to run. I've said those 4 things for quite some time on this show. We're going to put you under pressure physically to be exhausted. We are going to challenge you intellectually to make sure you know your plays and your responsibilities and you're learning the game. You're going to have to socially figure out how to fit in within a broader team that's typically more diverse than many other sports that are out there. And then finally, emotionally, you're going to have to learn how to deal with your own emotions as a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, 12-year-old, 13-year-old. I found over the years, first-year players, even second-year players, it becomes I used to say that every year, this will be the hardest thing your child's ever done. Second story I'd love to tell about this is I had one player come. He's now a senior in high school and getting recruited, all that kind of good stuff. He was a really good athlete in baseball and basketball, and he never played football. And he came to us, and he played after his first year. His dad came to me and said, I'm so glad he decided to play football. I said, why? He said, because he's getting challenged in a way that he doesn't get in any of the other sports. He's getting pushed. He's got to compete. He was like a really good athlete, all-star this, all-star that. But when he came to football, he was kind of one of the guys. He was good, but he was just one of the guys. He wasn't like a better player, so it made him actually have to work extra hard.
Yeah, absolutely.
Joe, it's funny you talk about that. I won't say it's funny, but 2 of my stints, one was at Army, one was at Air Force. Very different, obviously, than a 9-year-old or a 10-year-old making decisions.
Totally.
Out of youth football, but it's really. But we're talking about the quitting and what football teaches and what people are willing to do because of the game sometimes. And we used to tell parents, because that first summer is pretty tough on all whether they're a cadet or they're a plebe at Navy. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's tough because they're going through basically basic training. And we used to tell the parents that the first time your kids try to call in the summer during summer training, don't answer the phone. The second time, this is all in a certain amount of time, right, in the first 6 weeks. Right. The second time they call, you can answer the phone, but just listen. The third time, if it's within a certain amount of time, then you probably need to be a parent and you need to do what you need to do. Because inevitably, people make decisions because of adversity. And thankfully they do at the academy, right? That you don't want people that are willing to walk away. I'm not saying that that's not always the right decision. Sometimes it is the right decision. But you want, obviously, people are going to stick to it. And inevitably, as parents would talk to us after the fact, very hard not to answer that phone. Very hard not to say, hey, come on home, I'll take care of you, mom or dad. But inevitably, every one of those kids was so excited that they had stuck it out, not just for the academy, not just for the adversity, but because it allowed them to keep playing the game that they loved, and a game that taught them so as much. I mean, these are guys that are going to be future leaders of our country, and they're learning as much from football as they are from basic training.
Right, in the classroom. Yep. Benner, we talked about on another show, how we've all, I think, like I was saying, so many football players have stared down what am I doing here? Why am I putting myself through this? You and I had met previously, and we talked a little bit about that, and I thought that was I think it's just important for parents, parents in particular, to hear that story, because I think it's pretty natural for that to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would be lying if there wasn't points, even this year, like during my season, where I'm like, oh Lord, why am I doing this? But
totally, that's what mine was. Mine was freshman year of college. I'm staring out at I'm staring out at darkness from my dorm room my freshman year. It's 2:00 in the morning, and I'm just ecstatic that it's cool, it's quiet.
Yep.
There's I'm just laying in bed still. So good first down, good 8-yard play there. Should we go for second down, John?
Yeah.
So, Benner, I'm going to jump in and as we said, it's always unscripted here. So go with us. Tell us about your top 3 high school. I guess you've got a couple years at Tufts, so you can include Tufts if you want to. Your top 3 football moments.
Wow.
And they don't have to be wins.
Question.
It doesn't have to be wins. Top 3. Doesn't have to be wins, just has to be top 3 moments.
I would say I'm trying to think about my favorite high school win. And I think it's got to be our last game. It pretty much meant nothing. It was our game to go 500. We weren't making the playoffs. We were playing Lower Marion, which is where Kobe Bryant went to high school. Fun fact.
Yep.
And but man, I thought it was my last game, and I don't know what kind of clicked, but I had a monster game, both sides of the ball. Like on defense, I had TFL, sack, and then on offense, I was pancaking dudes left and right, so that was great. But I think, it was so great because it was the last time that I played with a bunch of those guys who are still some of my best friends to this day. And we got a win. We came back, I think, from like 20-0 or something like that, and it was literally just the best picture-perfect way that our season could have ended. And then another great moment. Honestly, for me, I'm a big believer in making progress, even if it is small steps. Like I really, my freshman year at Tufts, I didn't dress for the first 3 games, and then 4th game, we were at a team event, and I just went in to go into the locker room to like I think go grab a water or Gatorade from there real quick, and I saw my jersey hanging up, and it meant I was dressing for that game, and it was literally one of the most special moments of my life. You know, I think that's what's so great about football is like when you work so hard for something like that, you know, kind of find like that deep sense of motivation, and you know, you see the success come out of that. Like there's no other feeling like it. So that was really amazing. And then I would say the best moment of my football career so far, I think it's just got to be starting my first varsity game under the lights, entire crowd watching. You know, it was stuff that when I went there as a kid, like 5 years old, I had dreamed of, never thought I was going to be able to do, and then it happened. And then, I remember we won that game, fortunately, and, you know, my dad and my entire family came over and just gave me the biggest hug, and they were all so proud of me, and I was so proud of myself. And, yeah, it was just amazing.
You know, Joe, it's interesting because when we ask similar type questions, not necessarily exactly that, but we've had one former head coach at Power 5 level or Power 4 level and a current FCS coach, and you ask them what are some of the moments, and almost none of them revolve around the win or the actual. I mean, they all are around the game, but it's always the circumstances around it, which is what makes the game so dang special. The sacrifice, the energy and the effort that's put into it, the camaraderie that goes along with it, the pride, right? The individual pride because of how hard you work to just make the travel team. I remember that. I'll tell you that, Benner. I remember the very first time I was on the travel list at Syracuse, because every Thursday afternoon when we came in for practice, we all looked at that list, and I remember when my name went up on that list and was so fired up. It's so unique because the game, it requires it. It doesn't just allow for it. It literally requires it, and it builds character in the people that are involved in it because of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I'm sure both of you guys can attest. There was literally nothing I wanted more in life at that moment than to just put a jersey on and stand on the sidelines. Not even play.
Mattered. You couldn't know what to want because nothing else mattered.
Exactly. Exactly. Spot on.
Awesome. Benner, I'm going to bring up a classic topic as a player. Dealing with injury versus being hurt. Football is a sport that I think you always play with some degree of hurt.
Yeah, absolutely.
How have you managed that over your career?
First of all, I have to thank our two amazing trainers that we have right now, Brett and Jamie. They are the absolute best, and they help me a lot, with staying healthy, and when I am hurt, get me better. But, playing hurt and getting injured, I'm one of those guys that, even if something is pretty messed up with me, like, I'll still try and go. And, I think you just got to have the mentality when you go out there that, like, yeah, you could get hurt. It's a possibility, but, you just got to be tough. I mean, that's the bottom line, So, like if you catch like stinger to the ribs or something, you lose your breath or something like that, you just got to grit it out, man. You just got to keep going. Like I've had instances where, I've messed up my shoulder. I've, dislocated a finger one time. And,
what happened when you What happened when you dislocated the finger? What happened in the? Was it practice? Was it a game?
It was a game, I think. And then my finger got caught in the guy's face mask, and then it kind of, it dislocated. And wow, I mean, it really hurt. But as long as I had 2 feet to stand on and 2 hands to go block people with, I'm staying in the game. I think you really do have the mentality that, I'm not coming out of this game. No matter what happens to me, like, they're just going to have to drag me off the field. Like, that's what being injured is to me. Being injured is like, something pops in your knee, or like you can't walk anymore, or you can't move your arm.
Right.
I mean, anything other than that, that's just being hurt. And, go see the trainer on the sideline, get wrapped or iced or whatever you need to do, and, get back out there. But
Get back in the game.
I hate coming out of practice or coming out of games injured. That's literally one of the worst things ever to me.
John, what's your worst injury?
Oh, man. We're talking football related, right? Not being, 50-plus years old related.
not old age, just playing from the gridiron.
I mean, probably the worst. It's funny, he was talking about dislocating fingers. I wanted to hold my hands up and go, yeah, I know that, because I still have all 10 phalanges, 8 fingers. All 8 have been either broken or dislocated, and one thumb's broken. I got one that has never been. I'm probably going to walk out of the house tomorrow, fall down, and break that, because I just said that. Let's see. I'm trying to, and this is not trying to go through a litany. I'm just trying to. I had a PCL. I don't have one in my left knee anymore, so but that one wasn't the worst by far. Okay, unfortunately, I did have a pretty bad concussion, and that was tough. But helmets and things have changed so much now that it's kind of made that a little bit better. But my worst was actually a cracked tailbone. We were playing East Carolina, and had one of the best blocks of my game of the game for me. I was blocking back on a counter play. Ball was coming in the A gap. Our running back, David Walker, coached in the NFL for a long time and was the captain. This was my junior year. He was the captain his senior year, and I actually put the guy on the ground, and I was trying to pop up real quick and see if I could make another block, and David drives his knee right through my backside. I mean, literally his knee right on my tailbone.
Ouch.
Cracked my tailbone. I went down. Not a great situation. Couldn't feel my legs for a minute there. I mean, it's just, all the nerves they all get like wacky, and I'm laying on the ground. It's a home game. My parents are there. Mom's obviously nervous about the whole thing. Don Lowe, who's an amazing trainer, actually truly amazing trainer, comes out, and by the time he got out there, I could start to feel my legs. But I told him what had happened. He started laughing. He knew what the issue was. He starts laughing, and this is like 2 minutes before halftime. So I go in. We're in the dome. I go straight into the locker room. They put a pad on it. Nothing. Do an X-ray. Put a pad on it. Go back in and play the second half. Now I couldn't sit down for about 3 weeks. Practiced on Wednesday, because you had to practice on Wednesday if you wanted to start on Saturday. So I practiced Wednesday and walked through on Thursday and played Saturday for about 3 weeks. While I wish I could remember that young trainer's name. We had a trainer that was there as a graduate assistant, and he made me basically a toilet seat, cushioned toilet seat, so I could sit down on the bus in the airplane. So, yeah, that was by far that was the most painful. Yeah, and
That's tough.
it was funny listening to Benner talk. As a coach, you heard trainers say it every year, right? When the season kicked off, I said, "Hey, today's the first day of team meetings, not even practice yet. This is the best you're going to feel for the next 6 months."
Yep.
And that's it is a tough game. It is a physical game. I think the world of the training room, the world of medicine has come so far that it's a safe game, but it'll test you. No different than basic training will test somebody, or advanced training will test somebody, or heartbreak will test somebody. But I do think those that are able to figure that out are better for it.
Right on. Awesome. I'm going to go third down. A lot of what we talk about here at the National Football Alliance is about culture. right? It's about how we treat each other. That's why we honor, improve, advance the game. A lot of it is about character. So tell us a little bit about, in your O-line environment right now, what's the culture like there, and how's it defined? Who kind of leads it, defines it, who upholds it? Mm-hmm. What happens if it gets a little sideways? Love to get a little bit of peek into the culture of the O-line world that you're living in.
Yeah. So in our O-line room, we live by three things: toughness, determination, and gratefulness. Those are our three words that we live by, and that's kind of the standard we hold ourselves to. And when you speak about the standard, it's we're not we're expected to perform to the highest level, if that makes sense. And to do that, you gotta run a tight ship. So where our culture is pretty much we're the grittiest, most dominant group on the field. We're gonna come out and we're just gonna dominate you every time. And we kind of have this mentality that we're not gonna lose. And if we do lose, we're just gonna get back up and we're gonna take it to you even harder the next play. And as far as things going sideways, we do run a pretty tight ship. If you're late to a lift, for example, first of all, you're not lifting then, and probably maybe not even for the next week. And then usually there's some sort of punishment involved, like a 300, or we'll get a couple 45-pound plates and have you hold them and then do lunges around the track for a lap. So something like that. But we just hold ourselves to the highest standard because that's what it takes to win. And in order to do that, we gotta be energetic. We gotta be super determined. But I think one word just to describe our room is grit. We're gonna get the job done. It may not be the prettiest, but every single time, every single down, we're taking it to you no matter what.
Love it. John, as an O-line coach, talk to me.
Yeah, I think obviously those are three things that you got to have. Joe, are you familiar with Angela Duckworth at the University of Pennsylvania in her book Grit? Yeah, this made me think of that right now. It has nothing to do with being an offensive lineman. It has everything to do with being successful in life. But for our listeners, it's a must read. The resilience and grit, and it's not the same thing, but resilience and grit, it's a must read by Angela Duckworth. I think that's something that every O-line coach is trying to do, is trying to create that in his room. Yeah. And I think every coach is trying to create that, because I think with it, there's a lot of success that can be had. You can't win just on grit alone, but you sure as heck can't be consistent as a group without it. The other thing that Benner mentions that I love is that the standard is, my words, the standard is the standard. It doesn't change. You could be 0-10, or you can be 10-0, and to be 11-0 or to be 1-10, the standard to win doesn't change. There's a certain way you're supposed to do things. There's a certain way things need to be done, and football has a great way of teaching that. Because it just doesn't matter. You can say it's all comparative, and we're raising kids now in a society where social media is so prevalent. There's so much comparison going on. I'm better at this, or I'm better at that, or my clothes are this, or whatever it may be. And the game doesn't care. The game wants you to. There's a standard that has to be upkept no matter what.
I also think, we've talked in the past on the show about the uniqueness of the offensive line as a position in football and in all of sports, right? It's the only position of its kind in all of sports, right? Your whole job is to sacrifice yourself for the team. That's your exclusive job. No other sport's got that responsibility, right? So, and I think as a result of that, I think the culture of a football team is largely defined, significantly defined by the culture of the offensive line.
Yeah,
right? It's like the heart of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I absolutely agree. And the thing with O-line, whether you like it or not, is you're never going to get credit for when anything good happens. But when stuff goes wrong, all of a sudden,
it's easy to point, isn't it?
Easy to point at, yeah. But for example, say a running back breaks a 40-yard touchdown run. You look on SportsCenter, Instagram, all of that. They're not going to be like, oh, look at this hole open up and look at this guard get to the second level, which will be probably the real reason why the play broke off. All the credit will go to the running back, or touchdown pass, deep pass. No one's looking that the QB had like 5 seconds in the pocket. Was comfortable enough to step up. But I think at least in our room, we kind of embraced that. The fact that we put our bodies on the line for the good of others every time. And my offensive line coach Scott Rim, one of the greatest coaches I've ever met in my life. He always tells us that, sort of because of that, we're the leaders. We're the biggest dudes on the field. We pretty much, what I think is the most physical position on the field. D-line, maybe linebackers will be up there with us. But, and because of what we do, and because that's our job, and, if stuff's going right or wrong, we got to be right at the forefront of that.
Don't be careful throwing shade on the D lineman. I was a D lineman in college.
I was going to say,
I throw shade on my D lineman during practice all day. So
Joe, it's interesting. We talk about the sacrifice of offensive linemen all the time, and what he was just when Peter was just talking about really hit me, because I worked with a coach towards the end of my stint as a Power 4 coach, and he's now the assistant head coach for the Detroit Lions, Scotty Montgomery. And he used to say that the tone of our offense is going to be set by two positions. He said the wide receivers, and hear me all the way through it, the wide receivers are going to be the barometer for our physical toughness. And it was a challenge to the wide receivers. Like, you got to go out, but the O-line is going to set our mental toughness. And there's a piece to that I really liked. Like, listen,
yeah, I like that.
Everybody takes the offensive line's physical toughness for granted almost. Like, it takes a lot to play in there. You're getting hit every day. You're getting hit every direction. There's no days off. Like, a Tuesday practice is a nightmare, right? I mean, there's no wide receiver that worries about a Tuesday practice. But every O-line wants to know how many plays of inside drill you're going to run, and how many plays a team run, and how many plays a half line, and how long's individual. I mean, but the mental toughness side of it was really the pride that I think that I always took, and that hopefully our players did as well. And again, there's a sacrifice to that, and a learning piece to that as well.
That's cool. Benner, staying in third down here as an O-lineman, what are the two or three things, for not culture-wise, the two or not style or attitude, what are the two or three things as an offensive lineman, technique-wise, that you hang your hat on, that you try and do better than anybody else to win every down?
This is not just a question. This is a test. I'm just kidding, Benner. I'm just kidding.
Something that I do hang my hat on, but obviously I have a ways to go and get a lot better at. Is it's really important to trust in your steps. Is what I've learned over this past season. I've sort of been a guy who, I would maybe take my first step and then I kind of do something a little wonky with my other legs, but taking like your first 1 to 4 steps are the most important in the play. Taking technically sound 1 step, 2 step, and then shooting your hands at hitting the guy on the second step is so important in order to win the battle. And then I think another thing that I do hang my hat on is that I'm pretty good at playing with leverage, and that's the name of the game in the trenches, as I'm sure you guys know. But whether it comes down to like I said, steps, hand placement, where my hip should be, it comes across you're inevitably going to have to block a guy that's going to be bigger than you, stronger than you, faster than you, but for the most part, none of that matters if you can just get under him, get under his pads, drive him back, and then roll the hips. But yeah, I would say those are two things that I pride myself on, try and do a good job at.
John, leverage. What's your recommendation? Best, most effective way to get leverage as an O-lineman?
Well, I'll say this. I always broke it down into two forms of leverage, right? Because I think obviously lower center of gravity goes a long, long way. And the quote-unquote, you got to be lower. But it's not always possible. Legitimately, it's not. Well, you got a 6'5" lineman and a 6'2" D lineman. It's probably not going to be possible and still be in a good, powerful position. Inside leverage is been something that I am a firm believer in. You'll at least stalemate, if not win, every single time if you have inside hand placement, because you can control your opponent. Because now getting technical, your elbows are inside your core is inside your hips, and so you're using all of your power, which you can't do if your elbows are out. So that is something I've completely and totally focused on when it comes to leverage. And so for me, that's all just about how you teach and how you train your body. There is nothing natural about playing offensive line. Not a single thing. It was funny. Benner's talking about his steps, and I'm going to myself, you know what? I can't tell you how many times I said, hey, if you don't know how to get there, it doesn't matter what you do when you get there, right? I can think about going down to my buddy's house, 6 towns away, but if I don't know how to get there, I'm in trouble, and that's what steps are. They get you there the right way, right, so that you don't miss the party. But that leverage piece, man, is just so it's just so important. As simple a game as it seems and as complicated as we make it as coaches sometimes, it really does come down to that.
Right on. John, think about the history of your time coaching. It's all like when I played, it was always leverage was all about being low.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. It was all about low, because it was also about, when I played in college, it was all about use your head as a weapon as a defensive lineman, right? As a defensive lineman, I was taught to use my head as a weapon. It feels to me like the evolution of contact, both on the offense and defensive side of the ball, this second element of leverage, which is more, I'll call it technique. It's not just being low, it's having the hands in the right spot, like you said, elbows inside your torso, torso inside your hips. That's a new, I think, level of technique that's been around not forever. I feel like it's been around for, 10 years. What's your perspective on that? Yeah,
I would say it's, in my opinion, not just as a coach, but even as a player, it's been around longer than that. Really the whole concept of inside hand leverage to me came to light my sophomore year at Syracuse, and we're playing.
That's a lot longer than 10 years ago.
Yeah, it was a couple more. I think it's 12 or 14 years ago. It was, and literally playing against Mark Caesar and Warren Sapp from Miami. And I wasn't getting underneath those guys. I was taller than they were, and I was playing center, and we're playing in a tight pot. And so it's like, what do I do? And the name Doug Marone probably means something to you, Joe. I don't know if it does to Benner or not, but he was a former center at Syracuse that played in the World League, and was coming back and finishing his degree and starting to coach at Cornell at the time. And he was the one that taught me about hand placement and hand leverage. And so it started to become a factor then. I think that since that, realizing that, and since Olympic lifts have become a big part of college football, and the ability to use explosiveness, not just brute strength, I think all that has a part in it. The other piece that has a huge part in it is the evolution of offense. For so many years, it was just about 3 yards in a cloud of dust, right? Wishbone offenses or wing tees or everything was buck sweep and running the football, and now all of a sudden you have to play with more balance, so you can't be so top heavy. The game's not played on the ground anymore. I mean, every one of us knows how many times the coaches yelled, "Stay off the ground" in practice, and it's not played on the ground anymore. And so I think that has had a lot to do with it as well, as offenses have evolved and positioning has evolved as much as just the brute force and the totality of moving forward.
Right on, John. Appreciate that insight. All right, Benner, fourth down. If you were a mentor, so we have a network of organizations we work with across the country.
Yep.
And I'm going to put you in a position of being a mentor for the youth football community in the country. What advice would you have for them? What's the one or two things you would want them to think or to know that you think would help them as a youth football player?
I would say going into it, you gotta be realistic. It's hard. Our chats are challenging. We on our
Both.
team we never say, we have a thing where we never say something is hard. Hard things is like losing a family member. Something like that. Challenging is like you gotta get up at 6 a.m. to go lift on a Tuesday. We kind of draw a distinction in that, and we always say we do challenging things. But I would it's going to be challenging when you start out and throughout probably most of the time you play it. But that's the beauty in it. There's not a game that's going to kind of make you sacrifice the things you have to sacrifice in order to play football. But because you make those sacrifices, you get a feeling that you don't get in any other sport, And then after that, I would say stick it out. You're going to want to quit. At one point or another, you're going to want to quit. And I would say if you do get that feeling, where you want to quit, don't. Just try stick it out for a couple more days. See how it is. For me, at least, during the worst of my times, where I'm kind of feeling really down. It's really important to think about sort of the light at the end of the tunnel. So say maybe there's a kid who had a really tough day at practice. Got knocked around all day. Hot day. Maybe we're doing some 300s at the end for conditioning. Yeah, and, like we talked about, you're going to question why you're even here to begin with. But it's really, really important to, sort of find your why. Find the reason that you're doing this all in the first place.
Right on, Benner.
Joe, I'm going to turn the question on you here, but I'm going to change it just a little bit.
Okay.
Because you are a mentor. You have been. You've been in youth football. You are in the consulting business and mentor organizations from bad situations back to good. What is the one thing, and by one, what are the couple things, if you were talking to a youth football team now, that you would say, but it's not part of your normal repertoire. It's not the 3 things or the 4 things that are important, but it's those next 2 things that don't get said enough.
Good question.
Is that a dirty question? Does it need to be cleared up, or you understand what I'm asking?
It's a really confusing, dirty question, but I'm going to try and answer it anyway.
Okay, good. Story of my life.
No, I'm kidding. So, at the youth level, for a youth program, Benner said this. A couple things come to mind. Number one, my head coach is my sales organization. All my relationships run through my head coaches. U8, U10, U12, U14. Your number one job is to build effective, productive relationships with your parents. That means things that translates into action of things like, and I did this at the U10 level. I didn't do it at the U8 level. U10 and above. I want head coaches to teach the players to advocate for themselves. I want players, hey, coach, why am I not playing on Sunday or Saturday? Talk to coach about it. Parents, stay out of the playing time conversation and stay in the 2 questions at the end of every practice or at the end of every game. Are you having fun? And what did you learn today? It's the same questions you would ask in any other environment, in my opinion, of a U10, U12, U14. But having that head coach dialed in on those kinds of things, focused on the relationship with the parents, being the quote, air quotes, salesperson, but being the face of the program is something that I focused on in my time, and I think it was really important. I'd probably have that as number 5 or 6. Right, my first one's always going to be culture, but the spirit of this is you teach people how to treat you. And I would say to my coaches, all my assistant coaches, I had a clinic every year. It was my own clinic in my organization. You teach the parents how to treat you. And if you engage them in Johnny's not playing enough, you're going to teach them that they should come to you every time they think Johnny's not playing enough. And so I think it's really important to establish that type of a boundary. And that's not the first, second, or third thing I would say in giving advice to a youth program. The other, not first, second, or third thing is, make sure that when your product's on the field, make sure you're proud of it. So when your players are suited up, make sure they're suited up well. Make sure their shirts are tucked in. Make sure they're wearing the same game pants. Make sure the helmet's beyond safety, right? This helmet's got to fit, things like that. Make sure coaches are dressed and conducting themselves appropriately on the sidelines, right? But you got to be proud of that game, whether it's practice or a game. That product, whether it's a practice or a game, needs to represent who you are. And as the president, your personal brand is out on all these sidelines. You just make sure that it's being represented the way that you want.
Love it.
I want to give a shout out to and an appreciation to Brenner here.
Yes.
And Brenner, I'm sorry, Benner. This is
Oh, good.
It something I've learned in my career. Like I got a lot of gray hair. I've been around the block. I worked all over the world, 5 different continents, all that good stuff. I love hiring athletes like you. Love it. I'm a little biased on hiring a Division III athlete as compared to a Division I or Division II athlete. Personally, I love hiring guys who love to play the game. Right? You're not in it for the NIL. You're not in it for, you're in it because you love the sport. You're into doing the hard work. And because everything you've said tonight, Benner, on the lessons you learned, the culture, your determination, grit, and gratitude. When you interview for a job, like you go to Tufts, you're going to get a solid degree, a solid education from that university.
Thank you.
And you're going to go out, you're going to get a job somewhere. And when you interview, all these same things are going to come out. What employers want to see, I believe, at least what I want to see as an employer, is that kind of attitude, those kinds of answers. I got grit. Yeah, I'm smart. I went to Tufts. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know economics, or I know marketing, or I know finance, whatever. But I got grit. I'm determined, and I'm grateful for what I do. Those are differentiators I think in the job space.
Yeah, I think it translates really well. At least with football, it's not complicated to find success. You just have to be dedicated, be willing to work harder than everyone else, and I really do believe that those are things that kind of will translate well when it gets to that point. But just with how challenging, the sport is, and just the steps that you have to take to get there, it's just so similar.
Totally.
Sort of like we talked about. Yeah.
They're life lessons.
Yeah, exactly.
Without a doubt, and lessons that are continually being learned and applied, which makes them life lessons. So with that, Benner, thank you so much for taking the time joining us tonight. Our first student athlete ever on our podcast.
I'm honored,
so that's
man.
First
exciting.
student athlete ever, Benner.
You're forging the way and making us want to do it again, I'm sure, at this point in time. And with that, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I just want to say thank you guys for having me on. I mean, I'm sure you guys know talking balls about one of the best pastimes there is, but I'm really appreciate you guys having me on here, gave me the platform to share my story, and I really enjoyed it, guys.
Pleasure and honor.
We appreciate you taking the time. Yeah, it's our pleasure. And with that, Joe, I guess it's another wrap here. We appreciate, as I said, you joining us, and we appreciate our listeners learning a little bit more about different people's journeys through the game of football. And we thank you for joining us tonight on this edition of the Unscripted Huddle, brought to you by the National Football Alliance, where again every single day we're trying to honor, improve, and advance the game of tackle football. Well, that's it for this week. Let's keep the conversation going to help NFA honor, advance, and improve the game of football. Thanks for listening, and join us next time for another set of downs on the Unscripted Huddle.